The ocean doesn't like to keep secrets, but it's remarkably good at it. We fill its upper layers with the noise of our ships, the clicks of dolphins, and the haunting songs of whales. We listen intently, trying to decipher the conversations of the sea. But there are depths our sounds can't reach, a world of absolute pressure and perpetual darkness. And sometimes, if you listen closely enough to the silence, you realize the abyss whispers back. These aren't sounds you can record. They are murmurs felt in the strange patterns and unsettling anomalies that bubble up from the unknown, reminding us that we are merely guests on the shoreline of a vast, alien world. Think about this: more humans have walked on the surface of the moon than have visited the deepest parts of our own ocean. We proudly map distant galaxies, yet over 80% of our planet's underwater realm remains unmapped, unobserved, and unexplored. This isn't just water. It's an inner space, a frontier more foreign than Mars, right here on Earth. The rules of our sunlit world simply don't apply. It's a realm where pressure can crush steel, where light has never touched, and where life has been forced to become something else. We are the aliens here, trespassing in a kingdom that has evolved for eons in terrifying isolation. When we imagine the horrors of the deep, our minds leap to ancient myths. Krakens with ship-crushing tentacles, leviathans with jaws that could swallow a city. But maybe we've been looking for the wrong kind of monster. The most terrifying secrets the ocean holds might not have teeth or claws. The truest horror might be smaller, quieter, and infinitely more fundamental. It's a horror found not in a creature's size, but in its code. It's the unsettling possibility that the very laws of biology, the sacred rules of life and death that govern every living thing we know, are being broken down there in the dark. For decades, we've picked up on the clues. Unexplained sounds, like the infamous bloop, a call so powerful it dwarfed the vocalizations of the largest blue whale, originating from a place where no known creature of that scale could live. We see sudden, inexplicable blooms of bizarre microorganisms that vanish as quickly as they appear. Entire ecosystems on the seafloor have been found thriving on chemical energy, a process so alien it's like discovering a forest that breathes stone instead of air. Each is a puzzle piece, and when you lay them all out, the image they form isn't of a new species, but of a new kind of nature. What if the most profound changes happening on our planet aren't in the climate, but in the crucible of life itself? What if the strangest signals emanating from the deep aren't sound waves, but genetic ones? We've been looking for an external cause, a chemical spill or a geological event, but perhaps the disturbance is coming from within. Imagine the ocean not as a passive environment, but as a massive, living computer that is actively reprogramming itself. This suggests a paradigm shift in our understanding, where the most radical evolution on Earth is happening right now, silently, in the DNA of its most mysterious inhabitants. This isn't the slow, patient process of evolution we learned about in school. This is something else. Something faster, more chaotic, more alive. Think of it as a genetic wildfire sweeping through the abyss, where the instruction manual for life is being torn up, reassembled, and rewritten on the fly. It's the idea that life, in its most desperate struggle for survival in the most hostile place on Earth, has started to break its own foundational rules. The source code of existence has gone rogue, and we have no idea what it's compiling next. The creatures that emerge from such a process would be more than just new species. They would be living paradoxes. This is the real mystery of the mutation seas. It forces us to ask a terrifying and exhilarating question. What happens when the biological blueprint, refined over 3 billion years, is suddenly thrown out? What kind of life emerges when the very essence of what it means to be alive is twisted into new, unrecognizable shapes in the crushing, silent dark? This isn't just a search for another bizarre-looking fish to put in a documentary. This is a journey into the heart of life's own creative and destructive potential, a glimpse into what happens when DNA finally, and truly, goes wild. To even begin to comprehend the things that might be crawling, swimming, and evolving in that darkness, we can't just dive deeper. We first need to understand the rulebook that they are tearing apart. Before we meet the exceptions, we must understand the rules. The story of the mutation seas begins not in the abyss, but with a molecule. a beautiful, elegant, and surprisingly fragile strand of code that connects every living thing on this planet, from us to the strange whispers in the deep. It begins with DNA. Every story needs a language, and the story of life is the most epic ever told. It's written in a code that connects every living thing on this planet, from the bacteria in your gut to the strangest unseen creature in the Mariana Trench. This language is DNA. It isn't just a blueprint. It's a living scripture, a 4 billion-year-old saga written in a spiraling, elegant script. Think of it as the source code for reality itself, a cosmic instruction manual of impossible complexity, passed down through eons. And the most incredible part? Your body is reading and copying trillions of pages from this manual every single second. It's the ultimate legacy, the thread that ties you to the very first spark of life in Earth's primordial seas. So, what does this code look like? Imagine an impossibly long, twisted ladder, the famous double helix. The rungs of this ladder are made of just 4 chemical letters: A, T, C, and G. That's it. The entire magnificent diversity of life on Earth, from a redwood tree to a firefly, is written using an alphabet of only 4 characters. These letters pair up in a strict, predictable way, creating a sequence that stretches for billions of characters inside a single one of your cells. If you were to print out the full genetic code from just one human, it would fill a library of thousands of books. A library that contains the secret recipe for you. In this vast library, the individual recipes are called genes. A gene is a specific stretch of code that tells a cell how to build one thing: a protein. And proteins are the tireless workers of life. They build your muscles, digest your food, carry oxygen in your blood, and even form the lenses in your eyes. This system is miraculously stable. When a cell divides, it makes a near-perfect copy of its entire DNA library. Every book, every chapter, every single letter. This fidelity is what ensures a dog gives birth to puppies, not cats, and that your skin cells make more skin cells. Life depends on this extraordinary consistency. But what happens when the copy isn't perfect? This brings us to the engine of all change: mutation. A mutation is simply a typo, a copying error in the genetic text. Maybe a C gets swapped for a G, or a whole sentence gets accidentally deleted. Most of the time, these typos are harmless. They fall in a non-critical part of the code, and nothing changes. Sometimes they're bad, like a typo in a recipe that tells the baker to use salt instead of sugar. The result is a disaster. But every once in a while, a mutation is something else. It's a moment of accidental genius. It's a typo that creates a new flavor, a new function, a new ability. This is the double-edged sword of DNA. Its stability gives us life, but its imperfections give us evolution. This process of mutation is happening constantly, randomly, all around us. It's the background hum of life. But the stability of the code is always in a precarious balance with the forces of chaos. On one hand, you have cellular proofreading systems that act like tireless editors, finding and fixing most of these typos before they cause a problem. On the other hand, the universe is full of things that act like vandals in the library, actively trying to tear the pages and scribble over the text. These are mutagens, and they dramatically crank up the rate of mutation, pushing the system to its breaking point. Some of these mutagens are cosmic, like the relentless bombardment of high-energy radiation from space. Others are geological, like the toxic brew of chemicals spewed from deep-sea hydrothermal vents, nature's own chemical weapons. And many, unsettlingly, are of our own making, leaking into the oceans and tampering with a system we barely understand. A mutagen doesn't care if a typo is good or bad. It just scrambles the code. It's like shaking a master watchmaker's toolbox. You might get lucky and have the parts fall into a new, brilliant configuration, but more often than not, you just end up with broken pieces. This is where the mild horror begins to creep in. In a stable environment, evolution is a slow, majestic dance. But in a mutation hotspot, an area saturated with mutagens, it becomes a frantic, violent scramble. The orderly process of inheritance is replaced by a genetic lottery where life is forced to gamble with its own source code just to survive another day. The deep-sea vents we mentioned? They are precisely these kinds of places. Under immense pressure and bathed in a cocktail of strange chemicals, the mutation rate here can be off the charts. It's an evolutionary pressure cooker, a forge where life is hammered into new and unexpected shapes at a terrifying speed. So far, we've only talked about random errors and external damage. We've assumed the system itself is playing fair. But what if it isn't? What if the ancient, for-billion-year-old code of life has its own secrets buried within it? Forget vandals throwing rocks at the library walls. What if the books themselves contain hidden passages, dormant chapters, and forgotten footnotes that can be reactivated? What happens when it's not an error, but a hidden feature? What if nature has found a loophole in its own rules, a biological cheat code that breaks the fundamental cycle of life and death as we know it? We think we understand the rules. Life is a one-way street. You are born, you grow, you age, and you die. It's the most fundamental contract every living thing signs with existence. It's the engine of evolution, clearing the stage for the next generation. This forward march of time is written into our very DNA, a biological clock that relentlessly ticks down. But what if it's not a clock? What if it's a program? And what if that program has a glitch? A loophole so profound it allows an organism not just to pause the clock, but to turn it back, breaking the most sacred rule of all. Meet Turritopsis dohrnii. It doesn't have a scary name, and it doesn't look like much. A tiny, bell-shaped jellyfish, no bigger than your pinky nail, drifting peacefully in the ocean. It lives a normal jellyfish life until it gets old, injured, or stressed. And then it does the impossible. Instead of dying, it collapses in on itself, reverting back to its earliest stage of life, a little polyp that settles on the seafloor. From there, it begins its life cycle all over again. It's not healing. It's a complete, biological reset. It found a rewind button for its own existence. Let that sink in. This isn't just long life. It's a potential escape from death itself. It's a creature that, under the right circumstances, can cycle between adult and infant form forever, making it biologically immortal. This is not science fiction. This is a real animal right now in our oceans operating on a completely different set of rules. It's as if this tiny jellyfish found a backdoor in the source code of life, a cheat code that lets it bypass the final, non-negotiable endgame. If a creature this simple can defy its own genetic programming, what other hidden commands are lying dormant in the DNA of more complex life? This brings us to an even stranger concept: genetic ghosts. For years, scientists referred to the vast stretches of non-coding DNA in our cells as junk DNA. We thought it was just evolutionary clutter, the remnants of old, broken genes. But we were wrong. It's not a junkyard. It's an archive. Buried within that junk are the silent, sleeping ghosts of our evolutionary past. These are entire genes and genetic pathways that belong to our ancient ancestors, switched off and locked away for millions of years. But the locks aren't perfect. Sometimes a random mutation can pick one of those ancient locks. When that happens, a long-dead gene flickers back to life. These are zombie genes, and their reawakening can lead to startling results. Scientists have seen it happen. Chickens, whose distant ancestors were toothed reptiles, have been experimentally prompted to grow teeth. Whales and dolphins, which evolved from land mammals, are occasionally born with tiny, useless hind limbs, an echo of the legs their ancestors walked on 50 million years ago. These aren't new features. They are ancient history, clawing its way back into the present. This is a profoundly unsettling idea. It means that the evolutionary past is never truly gone. It's written into us, a spectral library of what we once were. Every living creature is haunted by the ghosts of its lineage, carrying the potential for ancient, monstrous, or marvelous traits within its very cells. What forgotten abilities lie dormant in the DNA of a shark? What primeval forms are sleeping in the code of a deep-sea squid? It suggests that under the right pressures, perhaps in those extreme, mutagen-rich environments of the abyss, these genetic ghosts could be awakened not just as a rare anomaly, but as a new strategy for survival. So now we have two terrifying new possibilities. First, the glitch of immortality, where an organism can hack its own timeline and refuse to die. Second, the haunting of zombie genes, where the ghosts of evolution can return to rewrite an organism's body plan. Life is suddenly not the linear, predictable story we thought it was. It's a dynamic, editable text where the past can be resurrected and the future can be, potentially, infinite. The rulebook isn't just being bent. It's being revealed as a collection of suggestions, not laws. But so far, these incredible glitches have been a personal affair. The immortal jellyfish keeps its secret to itself. The atavistic dolphin is a lonely echo of its past. These genetic miracles are locked within the lineage of a single organism. This raises the most important question yet. What if they weren't? What if these phenomenal abilities, immortality, ancestral traits, could be passed not just to offspring but to a neighbor? What if a mutation wasn't just a personal affair, but something that could be shared, copied, or even stolen? Evolution, as we've always known it, is a story of family. It's about passing down your genetic legacy, your DNA, to your children. It's a slow, vertical cascade through time, with parents handing their traits to offspring in an unbroken chain of descent. This is the vertical inheritance that defines us and every complex animal on Earth. But what if there was another way? A darker, faster, and more chaotic method of gaining new abilities. Not inheriting them from an ancestor, but taking them from a stranger. Not a family tree, but a black market for biological contraband. This isn't inheritance. It's theft. In the unseen world of bacteria, this genetic black market has been open for business for billions of years. Bacteria don't just rely on slow mutation. They actively trade, share, and steal useful genes from each other in a process called horizontal gene transfer, or HGT. It's like a vast biological internet where code for new abilities can go viral. This is how antibiotic resistance spreads so terrifyingly fast through hospitals. A single resistant bacterium can email the gene for that resistance to its unrelated neighbors, creating a superbug army overnight. For a long time, we thought this was just a quirk of the microbial world, a strange behavior confined to the simplest forms of life. We were wrong. The firewall we thought existed between the simple and the complex, between bacteria and animals, is riddled with holes. Genetic secrets are leaking out, and this changes everything. The most stunning proof of this is a creature that seems to defy the very definition of what it means to be an animal. Meet the sea slug Alicia chlorotica. It's a vibrant green leaf-shaped slug, but its color isn't just camouflage. It's a clue to its stolen superpower. This humble slug commits an act of grand biological larceny on a daily basis. The slug grazes on a specific type of algae, but it doesn't just digest it for energy. It carefully extracts the chloroplasts, the tiny green engines that allow plants to perform photosynthesis. But it doesn't stop there. It has gone a step further and stolen the very genes from the algae's DNA that are required to maintain those chloroplasts. Its own animal cells incorporate these plant genes, effectively hijacking the secret of solar power. After one good meal as a juvenile, this slug can sustain itself for the rest of its life just by basking in the sun. It has become a solar-powered animal, an animal that photosynthesizes, a living, crawling plant-animal hybrid. This isn't a slow evolutionary adaptation. This is a direct, horizontal transfer of a superpower from one kingdom of life to another. And if a slug can steal the power of a plant, it shatters our understanding of biological boundaries. It opens up a Pandora's box of horrifying and awe-inspiring possibilities. What other abilities are being traded on this genetic black market? The eerie, silent bioluminescence of a deep-sea fish? The hypertoxic venom of a cone snail? The ability to see in the dark, to withstand crushing pressure, or to regenerate lost limbs? Suddenly, the ocean is not an orderly collection of distinct species, but a chaotic, fluid marketplace of biological traits. It's a genetic Wild West, where survival might depend not just on what you evolved, but on what you can steal. Imagine a predator that acquires the camouflage of its prey, becoming an invisible hunter, or a school of fish that suddenly gains the ability to produce a neurotoxin, turning a once harmless species into a swimming plague. The biological arms race becomes unpredictable, where organisms can gain game-changing advantages in a single generation, not over millions of years. And what is the primary currency of this black market? What acts as the delivery service for these stolen genes? Viruses. The ocean is saturated with them, outnumbering all other forms of life combined. We think of them as agents of disease, but they are essentially biological syringes, constantly injecting genetic material from one host into another. Most of these injections fail, but with trillions of viruses attempting this every second, the sheer odds dictate that some transfers will be successful. The ocean is crisscrossed by an invisible viral network, constantly shuffling the genetic deck in ways we are only just beginning to grasp. Life stealing secrets from other life is one thing, but this all happens in a world we can at least partially understand, in the sunlit layers where the sea slug performs its solar magic. It begs a terrifying question. If this is the genetic chaos happening in the light, what unimaginable pandemonium is unfolding in the absolute darkness of the abyss? Down there, in the crushing pressure and chemical soup of hydrothermal vents, the ultimate mutation hotspot, the rules aren't just being broken. They may have never existed at all. Forget everything you know about life on Earth. We are now diving past the sunlit world, past the twilight zone, into a realm of eternal night. Down here, 2 kilometers below the surface, the pressure is a crushing 200 times greater than at sea level, a force that would turn a person to pulp in an instant. It is a world without light, without plants, without anything familiar. And yet, life is here. We arrive at a hydrothermal vent, a jagged spire of rock gushing superheated, mineral-rich water into the freezing darkness. It's a black smoker, a geological chimney venting the planet's inner heat. This isn't an oasis. It's a vision of hell. And it is the most creative place on Earth. This is a mutation hotspot, the ultimate evolutionary laboratory. The extreme heat, the crushing pressure, and the bizarre cocktail of chemicals. Sulfur, methane, heavy metals are all potent mutagens, constantly scrambling the DNA of anything that lives here. But more importantly, the dense soup of bacteria and viruses that thrives in this chaos has turned horizontal gene transfer into the primary engine of evolution. It's no longer a rare event. It's the law of the land. The slow, dignified waltz of inheritance has been replaced by a violent genetic mosh pit where survival depends on what new code you can beg, borrow, or steal in the next 5 minutes. Let your imagination drift into this darkness. What kind of life emerges from such anarchy? The creatures here are no longer distinct species in the way we understand them. They are chimeras, living patchworks of stolen DNA. Picture a crab, scuttling across the seafloor, that doesn't just have its own tough shell, but has also incorporated the genes for a jellyfish's bioluminescent lure, pulsing an alien blue light from its claws to attract prey. Imagine a species of fish that has stolen the sensory genes from a tube worm, allowing it to taste the chemical composition of the water with its entire body, navigating the toxic plumes with impossible precision. These are not clean hybrids. They are messy, desperate abominations, assembled from the wreckage of other organisms. Think of a squid-like creature that has stolen the code for a crustacean's chitinous armor, creating a grotesque fusion of soft tissue and segmented plates. It hunts using a venom it plagiarized from a species of snail and defends itself with an ink cloud whose chemical signature was lifted from a sea cucumber. These are not stable organisms. They are temporary solutions, biological sketches that exist only as long as their cobbled-together code holds up against the relentless pressure to survive. But in any ecosystem of chaos, something will eventually rise to the top. What is the apex predator in a world where genes are fluid? The answer is the ultimate horror, a creature that has mastered the genetic black market. It's not just a chimera, it's a shapeshifter, a predator that has evolved not just to eat its prey, but to sample its DNA and integrate its most useful traits into its own body. It's a walking, hunting embodiment of horizontal gene transfer. It doesn't have a stable form because its form is a weapon, constantly being upgraded with new software stolen from its victims. Let's call it the abyssal shifter. After consuming a shoal of bioluminescent fish, it might sprout glowing angler lures from its body to hunt in the dark. After ambushing an armored crustacean, it might temporarily reinforce its own flesh with a layer of stolen organic armor. It is a biological phantom, a predator whose abilities are a direct reflection of what it has recently killed. It is less a single organism and more a collective, a living library of stolen terror. It is not one species, but a legion, constantly rewriting its own biology to become the perfect hunter for any given moment. This creature represents the final, terrifying conclusion of DNA going wild. Its life completely untethered from its own history, from the very concept of a stable identity. It is a genetic storm made flesh. It doesn't evolve over generations. It evolves between meals. It's a form of life that is constantly, terrifyingly becoming, never just being. This isn't just an animal. It's a living, breathing testament to the idea that in the most extreme places, life will not just find a way, it will find every way all at once. It's a terrifying and awe-inspiring vision of life untethered. A genetic storm raging in the crushing, silent dark. For now, it's a nightmare confined to the deepest trenches of our imagination. A monster living miles beneath our feet. But it forces us to ask a final, chilling question. Could this genetic chaos ever reach us? Is the abyss a sealed laboratory? Or is the barrier between that world and ours more fragile than we think? Or, perhaps most unsettling of all, is it already here? It's a chilling thought, that abyssal shifter. A living nightmare stitched together from stolen DNA, hunting in a world of absolute darkness and pressure. It's easy to dismiss it as a fantasy, a speculative horror confined to the most remote, unreachable corners of our planet. We can draw a line, can't we, between the chaos of that deep, alien world and our own stable reality here on the surface. We asked if that genetic storm could ever reach us. The truth is far more intimate and unsettling than you can imagine. It's not a question of if it will reach us. It's already here. It's inside you right now. Look in the mirror. You see a human, the pinnacle of a long, orderly line of primate evolution. But your DNA tells a different story. It's a story of invasion, of ancient infections, and of genetic surrender. Buried within your own genetic code are the fossils of countless viruses that infected our distant ancestors millions of years ago. These are called endogenous retroviruses. They are not just traces. They are fully integrated sections of your DNA. Approximately 8% of the human genome is not human at all. It is viral. You are a chimera. We all are. A hybrid of primate and ancient virus. These viral invaders didn't just become silent passengers. They actively shaped who we are. For the longest time, the function of these viral genes was a deep mystery, a part of the junk DNA we didn't understand. But now we know some of their secrets. The gene responsible for creating the placenta, the very organ that allows a mother to nourish a developing child, the bedrock of mammalian evolution, is a viral gene. It's a gene called syncytin, which our ancestors stole from a virus. Life hijacked a tool from an ancient enemy to build the cradle of its own future.